The year is 2012. This is a picture of my co-founder, Andrew, and I, and we're two software engineers. We had just left our jobs at Google, and we had a dream to start a company. We're young, we're hungry, and all we had was a name for the company, Leanflown, not much else. Well, we decided to go to an incubator called Techstars in Seattle to learn what it's like to actually build a company. There's a lot of great things you can learn there, fundraising, you can learn how to build a product. But for me, it was actually one of the things you wouldn't expect that you would learn at this kind of school that really struck with me. This is a ritual that we did every Wednesday at 11 p.m. And we would all gather together. There's 10 companies, maybe about 20 people, and everybody shared their high and their low of the week. And this was it. And all of a sudden, you can feel how people empathize with each other. You can feel a sense of community. People wanted to help each other. It was really powerful. And that really struck with me. At the time, I didn't think much of it. But later on, I learned that this is probably one of the most important lessons I learned in Techstars. But before we continue, I just wanted to see a show of hands. How many of you have been told at some point in your career that you shouldn't mix personal life with work, or you shouldn't bring your personal life to work? Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, Google says there's 49 million results about that, so you can read all about that. And this story is really about how we went against this general rule of thumb, and how, as a result of that, we built a company with 160 people that is spread across 3 continents and is a fast-growing company with a rating for a best place to work. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. Well, I was also told that I shouldn't bring my personal life to work when I was an employee, and it never really felt right to me. There's actually a study from Harvard University, which is the longest study on human happiness. And they tracked the lives of, it started in the 40s, I think, and it lasted for about 80 years. It's still going. And what they determined is that most people think that happiness comes from money or fame, even if you ask today. But in reality, that doesn't actually correlate with happiness. What does is meaningful relationships. And so if humans are happy if we have social connections and meaningful connections, why is it that employees are any different? Well, as a founder, I have a lot of perks. I can pick the product I want to work on. I can pick the location of our office. But probably my favorite perk is that I can also pick the blueprints for the company that I can start. And so there's a lot of great companies out there. There's a lot of different ways to build a company. There's companies like Apple that is more autocratic company. They're very secretive about the way they do things. There's companies like IBM that are bureaucratic. It's all process-oriented. There's companies like Google, where I worked, which is very engineering or star-led organization. But the kind of company we wanted to do and start is different. It was a company that was based on putting the people first, a company that truly enables individuals to connect with each other at work. And for that, you do need to bring your personal life to work. This is just a quick picture of one of our gatherings that we do. There's actually a lot of research on this. I found a study at Stanford University that mentions all 4 of these types of companies. And it turns out that culture-driven companies are actually way more likely to achieve an IPO, or public offering, compared to any of the other ones. Yet it's actually really hard to build a culture-first company. And I think Vasyl Terziev, who's one of my favorite entrepreneurs, says this really well, that it appears that a lot of successful high-growth companies tend to follow Moore's Law. So Moore's Law, essentially you double the size of the company every 18 months, but you need to constantly reinvent the company, reinvent the way you do things in order to keep it up. And that's what makes it hard. It's not easy to just keep adding more people. You have to be very thoughtful about how you preserve what makes the company special and the culture. But at the same time, that's why these companies endure, because they have the ability to go through the highs and lows of startup life. And that's why they have a much higher success rate. Well, we've learned a lot of things along the way, and we've certainly had to adjust things to make it work. And I just wanted to share some of the learnings we've had. Of course, when we started the company, we borrowed the highs and lows ritual that we did in Techstars. And it worked great. Everybody loved it. Every Friday we got together. And then by the time we got to 20 people, it was just taking too long. It would take 45 minutes to go through everybody. And I was sad, but we had to cancel the activity. And eventually, it took us another 2 years to figure out what to replace it with. And I always felt like there was something missing in our culture because we couldn't keep up that really important piece of connecting with the highs and the lows. And what we figured out is something that we call Big Talk dinners. It's a tribute to a TikTok on Big Talk. And so what we do is we'll get together, and there's a lot of different ways to do this, maybe during an offsite or a retreat, or even in the office. All we do is just get around the table and we share a list of big talk questions. Big talk questions are unlike small talk questions. So small talk is asking how your weekend was. Big talk is about really trying to understand things like, well, what do you really want to do with your life? You know, a little bit deeper, and it enables people to connect in a more meaningful way. And this has worked really great for us. So this is something that we do across teams, across departments, but also within teams, and it's been able to scale as we've grown the company. We also learned pretty early on that a lot of people, when they joined our company, they thought that it felt like a family. And they kept repeating this, and it didn't really strike me as the right word to use. In a family, you can have an uncle that doesn't like to do the dishes, and you can't really do anything about that, right? Just you have to put up with it. But I feel like a better way to describe what we do and who we are is a sports team. Because a sports team really builds really good group dynamics, but in addition to that, they also have a common goal. And with that common goal, they know that if somebody is not pulling their weight, they're going to be on the bench. And this is really something important that we had to instill, and so we changed the way we talk about our culture from a feeling of family to a feeling of sports team. And then the other thing that didn't scale for us is how we actually enforce our culture. Because when you hire, you also have to make sure that you screen in the right people. And I used to do all the culture interviews. I probably did hundreds of them. And at some point, that just didn't scale. And so what we had to do is codify essentially what the culture means. What are the principles that we can write down, the values that we have that everybody in the company can go in and screen for. And so what we came up with is lead humbly, which internally we call the no asshole rule, by the way. We have the being a doer, the skip politics, push innovation, and showing of gratitude. And it's just those 5 that we wrote down, and they've worked really well for us. So in essence, what we found in the last journey, the journey of the last 5 years is, it may seem obvious to you, but it's surprisingly controversial. And it's that employee happiness really is human happiness. And if you want to be happy at work, you have to be able to bring your personal life to work. You have to be able to connect with the people around you. I asked our managing director from Techstars about the low and highs and lows ritual and where it came from, and he actually shared with me that that came from his personal company. He had started a company before, and he passed that on to us as a way for us to build our company. And my hope is that I want to pass all of that to you as well. And if you're considering starting a company or you're considering joining one, consider not just the product that you're going to work on or the service that you're going to offer, but also the culture that you can actually join. Because there is really a new generation of companies out there that really put people first and care about employee happiness. Thank you.